Jujutsu Kaisen, when you first read or watch it, you think, oh, it's a power scaling anime like My Hero Academia. Then halfway through, you're like, oh my god, why did Nanami just give me a 30-minute philosophical monologue? I'm going to actually cry. I love Jujutsu Kaisen for many things. Its complexity in both its characters and their techniques, the way it's written, the style, and how much of a troll Gege is. I could name many things. Nanami having a character design that's so sad and thoughtful, Gojo's intricate and complex character design along with his technique, and Yuji's rise to becoming the second Gojo in Modulo. But firstly, let me start by saying the first half will contain anime spoilers, the second half will contain manga spoilers, and there will be a small third part that contains Modulo spoilers. I'll warn you when we get into manga and Modulo territory, but if you haven't watched up to season 3, you should stop now. First, I'm going to talk about how techniques work and why I love them. I will not talk about Gojo's technique or him here, as we really get to know about him in Shinjuku Showdown. I want to save him for later. But I will talk about Nanami, as he really shows what it takes to be powerful. Nanami is a very well-written character, as his level-headedness makes him perfect for an amazing satire, while also making the times he does show emotion way more impactful. Especially in his final moments in Season 2, Nanami's technique shows this level of headedness perfectly, as the whole technique revolves around math and calculations, with this attention to detail being something only Nanami can do. This shows us exactly how techniques is something only the person with them can do. If you gave Gojo's technique to Nanami or Nanami's technique to Gojo, then both Nanami and Gojo would become terrible characters. However, Nanami has one flaw. He can't use domain expansion. This single flaw makes him an amazing character to me, not because of the flaw itself, but because of the reasoning for his flaw. Nanami, while being level-headed, was too level-headed. To use domain expansion, you must throw away everything on a risk. For example, Mahito using it on the brink of death, and so did Megumi at his lowest, along with someone else in the manga. To use domain expansion, you can't be level-headed, and that's the reason Nanami died. We're going to get away from my GOAT Nanami. We're going to move on to how Jujutsu sorcery itself is constructed and how it works. Now, I'm a sucker for complicated stuff, and this just tickles that scratch perfectly. Looking at this might give you an aneurysm, but I love this kind of stuff. While other manga or anime explain powers away with just existing and at the most using up some kind of energy, JJK decides to make a whole plethora of uses for that same energy instead of some standalone single power. From reverse curse technique making positive energy for your normal technique to be reversed, to barrier techniques linked to veils, anti-domains, and domains themselves. There is so much you can do with a system like this. Gege clearly put effort into making something like this, and I love it. No matter how much he tells you he's just some guy who makes manga, he makes some pretty good manga. Speaking of Gege, I want to ramble on about how much of a troll he is. This man will actually make Taro the smartest person in the entire goddamn series, while also killing off people after gaslighting us into thinking they are going to stay. This man reminds me of people like Scott Coffin, straight up saying Golden Freddy never existed. Editing me here, Scott Coffin never actually said Golden Freddy doesn't exist. However, he did say, sometimes things just happen during the game making process. I can't explain Golden Freddy. You're telling me you made a whole character that you can't explain? No, that's even more of a troll than saying Golden Freddy doesn't even exist. Back to the thing. And Goosework straight up giving away lore on a whim. Gege isn't even interested in power scaling, which is a part of the reason his anime is so good and diverse from the others. Gege's true talent is world building and lore. This world feels real and tangible, not because Tokyo is a real place, but because of how he makes sure that the world lives on past Yuji's story in Modulo, and in the past when they explain the Heian era of Jujutsu. How the past and present were different knowledge. For example, how Heian era sorcerers knew how to make an open domain. Gege uses this to ground us in the present, by only giving us the knowledge on how closed barrier domains work and never giving up insight on an open domain. This makes us feel like we're actually in this universe and time period. Now we're going to move on to manga spoilers, so if you haven't read the entire manga, then stop watching now. Got it? Great. Let's talk about my boy, Gojo. Gojo is one of the most complex and deepest characters in the manga, From his first appearance to his tragic death, our own perception warps on who he is and what he wants. When we first see him, he comes off as an easygoing character who, even in the face of Megami's near death, is casual and even mocking towards him. He seems egotistical and boasts about being the strongest, but this is just Gege gaslighting us again because he's a troll like always. As we go deeper, we start to see his physical and metaphorical masks slip. For example, when Yuji dies for the first time, he straight up threatens to kill every higher-up in revenge. Gojo talks to himself in a completely different tone than his easygoing persona, and as you get to the hidden inventory arc, you wonder who Gojo really is. And right as you're wondering, they give it to you. What at first seems like some random flashback becomes clear when you realize this is the exact point you wonder about him, and comes even more into play as you understand exactly what Gojo went through when Kenjaku shows up and those memories flash for his head. Gojo was alone through everything because he neglected Geto, and this caused him to shut off to everyone with his persona. He never wants to feel that pain again, the crushing feelings of neglecting someone. A massive theme of JJK is that to be strong, you end up alone. Gojo gets sealed because he was alone in the fight. Gojo gets killed by Sukuna because he was alone throughout the entire fight to keep everyone else out of danger. Gojo's technique shows exactly how alone he is. At the start of Shinjuku Showdown, Yuji tries to hit Gojo on the back for good luck, but he literally could not touch him due to infinity. Gojo doesn't trust anyone to the point where he keeps the technique around his own allies. There's actually a reverse of this shown after Gojo dies. Sukuna is defeated by Yuji because he had people at his side. He had people he trusted and let into his life. That's Gojo's flaw. Not some physical power or weakness, but his own inability to get anything done because he went at everything alone. On the theme of power being linked to loneliness, this is a spoiler from Modulo Yuji, who is like the king of loneliness. So read that real quick and come back. It's only 35 chapters, you know. You back? Great. 68 years after the events of JJK, we get to see the modern Yuji. He has become the next Gojo and has perpetuated the cycle perfectly. His insecurities about his real purpose of being alive this long because of being a curse, he has become alone. He has neglected everything and has become alone like Gojo. Yuji doesn't try to interfere with modern time, since because of his idea he's meant to be dead by now, he never gets anything done in his loneliness. However, this changes unlike Gojo. At the end of Modulo, Maru prepares to destroy cursed energy, something Yuji gave up decades ago. He gets redeemed by trusting and letting someone else help. Gege clearly wanted to hammer home the strength and loneliness point with these 35 chapters in Modulo. That sums up everything I want to say. I love JJK and how it's designed and written. JJK is a breath of fresh air for the power scaling series, and I love it. If you made it to the end, say like Gege is a troll or something in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that stuff, so I can actually grow into a real hobby instead of just me yapping to myself for 10 minutes.